Today is Friday, July 25th, 2025. Got a lot of 25 energy in there. 7/25/2025. And it's also the 29th day of Tammuz. And 29th day of Tammuz, 6th day of the week, 29th Tammuz, 5785. And today, it's Parshat Matot-Masei. We're finishing Bamidbar. And in many ways, in some ways, or in a sense, we're finishing the whole Torah. Because Deuteronomy, the book of Devarim, is really mainly Moses' recapitulation of the Torah. It's going over it, and there's some unique things in Devarim, of course, but a lot of it are the laws that have been said in Exodus and Leviticus. And so, we're completing something, and we finish off with the 5 daughters of Tzlafchan this week. That's like the last thing of the Torah. That's the last. Is the completion of the Torah. Is the resolution of the case of the 5 daughters, and bringing it to this calendar. Today is 10-day twilight 5 because it's the 25th of July. This is a lunar solar calendar, which marks 90 days, about 90 days of time, depending. In the Hebrew cycle this year, it's going to be only 89 because Tammuz has 29 days. And this last portion here is like Tammuz or July. It's a lunar and solar calendar. And so 10-day twilight 5 would point to the 5 daughters of Tzlafchan. And which we'll be reading tomorrow. Because each box, each day is like a rectangle. It includes the next day. And it includes the day before it as well. So that's T5, but T9 is also a very interesting day. T9, we're in 10-day twilight 9 because it's the 29th day of Tammuz. And T is not because of Tammuz, T is because of twilight, 10-day twilight. This calendar marks 80 days, but it actually marks up as much as 90 or even 91 days. Sometimes on the Gregorian calendar, it's 31 days, so it's going to go up to 91 days. But it can go less. It can be 89 days. And today is the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of the great sage and scholar Rabbi Shlomo ben Yitzchak, or Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, as he is named. He wrote a commentary on all of the Tanakh, the Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, and on all the Talmud and other things. I think it's, the Talmud and the Torah. And today is the day that he passed away in the year 1105. It's exactly 920 years ago. Which is interesting because I mentioned this in a different video, that 920 is a permutation of 0 to 9. If you were to see every digit as it's a 3-digit number, all of its permutations, the 29th of Tammuz, which is today, 029 is 920. So this year is very interesting. But there's something that I'd like to connect, being that it's the T9. And T9 is the very last day of this mercurial year. There's 4 of these mercurial years in one of our Earth years, because it's about 90 days. That's why it's called the PL-89. 89 goes to that idea. 89 is almost 90, and there's many reasons for 89. The Lubavitch Rebbe of blessed memory had a connection with 89. I think when he was 89 years old, there's a special sikha that he said, and I think it was when he spoke about bringing Mashiach closer by speaking about Mashiach. I think that's what happened when he was 89. So that's what this is about as well. It's got the 89 connection there. But 89 is about 90, and it's also about 88. And 88 as the English numerical value for the word Exodus. And it's also the cycle of the planet Mercury around the sun, according to published data, that the Mercury goes around the sun in about 87.9691 something days, which is about that time as well. So today is the last day of the cycle, and there's a very special connection to Aharon Kohen in this parsha, and this time in general, but in this calendar. This calendar has a lot to do with Aaron the priest. It's something to do about a priestly calling. And the priests, I notice a lot of Kohanim, priests, and people that call themselves priests today are very much in the forefront of the field of messianic discussions, for or against. But many Kohanim, if you notice, and you'll notice many, just take a look at who's a priest, and their last name is Cohen, or you just know that they're a Kohen. For example, Rabbi Reuven Wolf is a good example, is that he is a Kohen, and his whole thing is about Mashiach. Chabad, specifically Chabad Torah and Hasidus, but really a strong push on Mashiach more than most people, I would say. But then you look around and just pay attention to who are priests, and you'll see that they're talking about Mashiach. And I think it goes to the verse in Leviticus, which says, "V'zarku b'nei Aharon haKohanim et damo al hamizbeach saviv." It says that the priests would do the avodah. They would throw. It says the sons of Aaron would throw the blood on the altar around. Saviv equals 74, and so it's kind of telling in a way. So bringing it back to Aaron the priest, Aaron has a big connection to this because without getting into too much of the technical details, one technical detail we'll say is that in the first dispensation of this, which is dispensation 8, the very verse, the exact verse that it said that Aaron passed away, it was in, I think it was last week's parsha. Or, maybe, no, it's in this week's parsha actually. No, it's this week's parsha, it's in Masei, it's in chapter 33, verse 38. And this had different configurations, but the first configuration where this was Adar, this was Nisan, and this was Adar, Nisan, and Iyar, and that was the first configuration. So Adar, and then this would be Sivan, and then Tammuz, and then Av, and then etc. In that very first configuration, box number 38 was Aleph of Av. But what do we know about the first day of Av? It's the first day of the 5th month, which will be tomorrow, and it's the only yard site in the whole Torah. Think about that. Is there any other Torah? I mean, we know through tradition about Moses, about Zion Adar, and we have other traditions about when other patriarchs were either born or passed away. Some say that Joseph was let out of prison on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, I think the Talmud says that. But the only place that the verse says he passed away on this day and is Aaron the priest. So in that configuration lasted from 2012 up until 2020. I was counting this calendar for those 8 years. And 4 years went a different configuration, and then we're in the 2-year phase now, where Aaron the priest's yard site is going to be in box 8. It starts the mercurial year. In the last in the first configuration, which was configuration 8, The yard site of Aaron was the last month. So these fixed months, like Av or Shvat or any of the fixed months, Cheshvan, it came at the end. But now the fixed months are actually the beginning. We start right in the middle of something. That's the concept for this last cycle, this last configuration. So what I'm trying to say is that the verse 38 that said Aaron passed away on the fifth day, on the first day of the fifth month, was in the box was printed the number 38. That when I saw that, I thought that's really interesting. But that was in dispensation 8. But now we're in dispensation 2, and what's interesting, the chiddush, the innovation for this dispensation is that I'm trying to connect. Why is it that the yard site of Rashi, Rabbi Shlomo, his name is Shlomo Ben Yitzchak, is next to the next day is going to be Aaron the priest. What is, I mean, thousands of years later, but see, Rashi was a couple thousand years later, but still, same. If you're looking to count of all one time, one reckoning, then what's the connection? Well, the connection is this. It came from clearly that it says that for Aaron the priest, they mourned over him for 30 days, I think. I think it was that. Longer than anybody. I think for Moses it said 7 days, but like Aaron, they really mourned for him. And the reason given is that it is said that Aaron, he's on the in the Kabbalistic tree of life, in the Spizen. Aaron is in the parts of in the configuration of Hod, which is confession or making peace or agreeing. And it's written about Aaron that Ohev Shalom V'Rodev Shalom. He would try to make peace with everybody, and people really missed him because of that. Because he really had that personable feeling. Now, what we know about Rashi is that he wrote a commentary on all of the Judaic, all Jewish texts, the Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, and Talmud. And and it is considered pshat. Pshat is the simple understanding, but it's become like the classic textbook thing for pshat. And if you want to have a really quick go-to for a basic explanation, and now there are a number of places where Rashi doesn't comment on, and I've always wondered, what do you do with those verses? But I would say most of the things he does comment on. And so when you're not understanding something, there's a certain lack of peace, right? So if you get the basic understanding, you have some peace. If you don't understand something, you're not at peace. And if you understand something, you'll become at peace. So his name is Shlomo. Shlomo, like King Solomon, the reason why he was named that is because Shalom, peace is to him, and I think during that time in the history of Israel, the nation of Israel, the Jewish people, that was at least one part of it was a very calm and prosperous and peaceful time. And with the other nations of the world, there was a lot of peace. And so if Rashi is bringing peace through bringing the pshat to understanding, just giving a simple understanding of our learning, then it's no wonder why his yard site, the day of his passing, is right next to Aaron Cohen, he was known to make peace between man and woman. He would say something to the wife, your husband really said this, or if to the wife, would you like make peace between people? And so I think in a way that's what this calendar is meant to do, is meant to make peace and to unify. And in fact, the word unity in English gematria is equal to 89. And that's another reason why this is the PL-89. And That's it. Peace.